there, and welcome to another episode of the Infinite Mindset Podcast. We're joined today by an extraordinary gentleman on our team here at Industry Rockstar, actually a co-founder across several different divisions of our company. We're all interrelated into all sorts of different projects and fun and craziness here. Wes Longira, actually hailing from South Africa, and Wes and our team has been working on agentic build-outs and the agentic operating systems now for years on things, and the time flies when you actually had a full head of hair, I think, when we started.
Maybe.
And so we're going to just dive into a conversation about agents today. So we're doing a lot with building them, building out things. We're pretty advanced here, and so we want to keep this conversation actually a little bit more just kind of accessible as to what is going on with agents, all the talk about agents, everything from individual agents to orchestrations of agents. How are they working? How can we benefit from them? Things like, what are the more emergent agents like OpenClaw and NemoClaw and all this kind of stuff, and hosting them and self-hosting them, and not, all that's just what is it all, what's going on. So we're just going to dive into that today for a great deep discussion, and of course back with our partner here, Jeff, as well. How's it going, Jeff?
Good to see you. I'm excited to talk about agents today.
Me too.
It's a concept that's moving so quickly.
And welcome, Wes. Thanks for being here. We appreciate you.
And thanks for having me, guys.
Perfect. So where should we dive in? Wes, let's start with, what's the current situation on agents? And we'll keep it in form here, because our audience is, of course, entrepreneurs, business owners, solopreneurs, those that are launching, looking to make money with AI tech, looking to build things with tech, changing the world, making impact, that kind of world of things. So we'll keep it in that vein of stuff today. And what's kind of the upshot of what's going on with agents, where people are at, what do they need to know? And we'll just kick it off with that and dive in deep.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, what they really need to know is just don't buy into all the hype. There's just so much, if you just look at your feed, it's like, it normally starts with new AI does this amazing thing. And actually what we're seeing is some new trends evolving where if you understand business and the basics, and you know what you want as an output, it's just another tool. So I think people just like, those memes of like trying to keep up with the AI news, and it's like, I'm missing out. And, how do I keep up? And in reality, what people are actually doing is good, solid foundational, what is a workflow? What do I want to improve? Let me, give myself and my team an outcome, and let's work towards that. There's a saying we use is that the tool must work for you. You mustn't work for the tool. And so when you come with that mindset, it's like, I'm going to get a return on this. And that's all that's interesting. I think,
let's consider what is the difference between, let's say, a chat and an agent. So we got a regular LLM and an agent. We can even look a little bit at the technical structure a little bit, just for those that kind of want to understand. And it's funny that you say that, because my 16-year-old was just home from his school, and we were working on agents. He's actually now working with us and working with Wes. Wes has been building hundreds of agents for us, and building MCP servers and teaching our platforms and teaching platforms and multi-agent orchestration, all that kind of stuff. And he was like, I don't understand why everybody's freaking out. Like, it's cool, but it's not like it's some, and now with that, to be, fair, it is changing how we work and changing the world. So we don't want to downplay it either. It's sort of somewhere in between this insane hype. It's going to do everything by the click of a button, all the way down to, it's really nothing important. Just look at where is the real line of that? What is it really doing to affect, and what's the difference between all this, chat stuff that we were all excited about, ChatGPT, Claude Chat, things like that, Perplexity, Grok, stuff like that, and now the world of agents? What's the difference?
Yeah, I think that was a good foundation and got people curious, and, what could this do? And it was very kind of conversational, to now going, well, okay, what can I really do with this? And kind of leading the charge is Anthropic, really getting back to what does an LLM really do? And, even when we're building agents, and if you're using Claude and things like that to build agents, we often even get, to the point of like, well, is it a skill? Is it an agent? What is the difference? An agent has multiple skills and what we call tools, which means it can do things. I think that's the major shift now. I actually had an analogy, and I hope this kind of works, is you can think of an agent like a 3D printer. If these 3D printers, my kid actually got a model here somewhere, but it's kind of the same thing. In the past, it was like, I can chat with this thing. It's kind of like designing something in the computer, and it just kind of lives there. And, it's like, cool, and I had fun, and there's my design. Maybe I design a phone holder, in the cloud. But the difference with these agents is they can now come into the real world and do things. In other words, it can get printed. And that's something awesome to see. I love when the lights come on and people just take a very simple thing and just use things like browser automation and make it do something. And it's like this thing's becoming alive. And that's the shift. And I think that's the difference now, where it's gone from chat to actually something appearing in your world with a real result. Like, hey, that thing just messaged someone or sent the email and it's having a conversation. So that 3D printing kind of idea is really coming to the fore.
Yeah, it's great. It's like it goes from the concept and the idea into actually something that's getting done and becoming a final
Exactly.
formed activity or action. So
Exactly.
how is this going to be massively changing, like kind of work and people? What are we seeing right now? You know, what's actually happening right now? Where do we see it going?
Yeah. I think people have moved from that initial curiosity slash fear, like maybe if I just ignore it long enough, it'll go away, or, we don't really need to deal with it. And you know what? We saw this 10 years ago when automation was a big thing. And, we used to introduce just basically email automation. People thought they were going to get replaced. And the opposite actually happened. They did more and their businesses grew. And that's what we're going to start seeing more of now, is just leveraging these tools.
Ken, just a quick question on this for the people here. I'm wondering, let's say someone is moderately is adequate on ChatGPT. They know how to prompt. They're good at Claude as well. They can prompt. They can make projects. They can make GPTs, and they want to
Yeah.
explore agents. Where would you tell them to begin?
Go ahead, Wes, and then I'll share. I think this is the fun part, is that it's a
This
very
is the
open
fun part.
architecture about it's kind of like putting together your own approach or operating system. This is what, of course, Wes and
Yeah,
I
just so they don't get
each
totally
of them.
overwhelmed because there's so much to go, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where would you
I would
suggest to
definitely
start?
start with the end in mind. What problem do you want to solve? And it's almost like it doesn't matter where you start, because things are evolving so rapidly. And I think people look at the landscape and said, okay, once I understand everything that can be done, then I'll start.
Oh, they want
And
100% accuracy before they even begin. That's not the way
exactly.
to go. Okay.
No, definitely not. And I was sharing this idea with someone. It's when we say orchestration, you can actually work with that as an idea. Because what is an orchestra? It's a bunch of musicians that have mastered their instrument, and now they're starting to collaborate. And you can be there orchestrating and be part of that team. And so it really does. And I think that's what intimidates people. It's like learning a new skill and a new instrument. And so I always advise, number one, get a great coach, or dive into something that can really guide you. And actually just pick up the instrument. You're going to kind of
Mm.
suck in the beginning. You're learning all these different things, but actually just through that practice, you'll start to master it. And so that gives you an objective, and say, I'm going to learn this instrument. I'm not going to learn all the instruments. I'm not going to learn that job and what they do. I'm going to get there, and maybe I'll bring those skills in or use something else. But let me just master one thing, and that builds confidence, and you get more curious. And then that really gives you your first step, and it really reduces the overwhelm. And then lastly, I'll just say that's what gets people hooked. I see people getting hooked all the time. You get this like syndromes, like, okay, what can I do next? How can I do this? That's exciting to see that light switch come on and go, yeah, because they're getting value.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'll add a couple of things to that. So if you're a ChatGPT user, you can start on the agents on ChatGPT. There's an
Mm.
agent. There's an agent mode on ChatGPT. You can just start there and start asking to do things. And what you'll notice, or if you're a Claude user, you could use Claude Cowork, or you could use essentially the agents of Claude. Just about every single platform now has an agentic mode, or an agentic experience. And the thing to really note is just that there's a big difference between chat and agents. And the big difference is, as Wes was saying, I'll give a slightly different metaphor, which is chats can actually interact with you and think with you. Agents will go get things done. It's a little bit like taking a brain on the chat and giving it hands, and then it can go get stuff done. And what you'll find if you just start playing with it and asking for things is it doesn't stop by just suggesting, or, hey, here's how you can do it. It's actually like, why don't I go do this for you? Why don't I get it done for you? So whether that's email or scheduling things or building presentations or creating websites or whatever. And of course, agents go from very simple like business use cases all the way to where you can be interacting with them on code. The coding agents, for those that are kind of getting into vibe coding, are essentially allowing them to build websites, apps, and workflows. And the agents are just constantly moving it to the next step. It's like having a co-founder with you at a company. In fact, some of the stats are crazy. They're showing that companies, agents, because they're not just giving you advice or ideas and then having you go do them, they're actually getting it done for you. So it's not like chat to me is almost like having a great advisor that you can bounce ideas out with. Of course, you got to understand what it's telling you and whether it's right and whether it's accurate, whether it makes sense, whether it's hallucinating or whether it's just 1% off. It's a whole different story. But anyways, it's like having a little bit like someone that can just kind of give you advice. To an agent is actually like having a coworker that you can actually say, great, now can you go get this done? And so the stats are showing in some places they're getting up to 76% plus productivity, because now what you used to have to do manually, you can now give it to the agent to go do it and can get it done. Whatever was getting done in 40, 50, 60 minutes for humans can get done in like 7, 8, or 9 with an agentic interaction. But it's not just getting it done for you, it's an interactivity. And so this is actually what I'd love to throw it back to you, Wes, is how do you see this affecting workers and work? And let's talk, office executive work, leadership work. We're not getting into physical like workers in the field or workers in manufacturing, but just kind of, as I think they're calling it knowledge work, which is different than how people in the training industry call knowledge work, kind of a whole different thing. And I always think whenever they say knowledge work, they always say I always think of, because we're kind of in the knowledge industry as we're training, educating, supporting, serving people and learning things. I always think of ourselves like suddenly they're like those knowledge workers walking the streets, right? Hey baby, you want some knowledge? Hey baby, something like that, right? So,
to the jacket, I got some watches.
Yeah. Hey, I got some knowledge for you. You want some knowledge? Hey, man, totally. So when they call it knowledge work, and but anyways, for those that are kind of in executive roles or leadership roles or in in office roles, how is it changing the way they're working and how the way they're thinking and approaching their work now that they have everybody has kind of an assistant for the first time?
Yeah, the only way I can approach that answer is it is a massive paradigm shift. I'm looking at this even when I think of my kids, coming into this world of work, and especially this year, I made the decision. I said, now is the time, because I don't want to spend my time trying to help them shift that paradigm and unlearn a bunch of things. And we spend so much time, and I've almost started a bit of a shock and awe mentality when it comes to this, because I find people try and solve the problem they created with the same things they created in the first place. An example is, can't we just build an app? Why? It's that those paradigms are like, you're talking to an agent, just ask the agent. It can give you the answer and you can move on. So that paradigm, for knowledge workers and the leaders are like, really read. And I think that would probably be the next step, is like, there's a lot of hype around and so on. Really just read some great material that's out there and just kind of see, in your industry, what people are doing to really move those paradigm shifts. Because I think they're healthy paradigm shifts, but it's move or be moved. There's going to be disruption. I had a client today and I'm like looking at how slowly they're moving through this paradigm. And I'm like, guys, I can tell you right now, there's someone in their basement who can put you out of business overnight with what you're doing right now and just shift the whole thing and just pivot. So we need to move fast.
Yeah.
Speed is king now.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, I think, part of the resistance is, hey, when you use an agent, the first experience I think a lot of people have is a bit of feeling guilty, or a bit of a feeling, totally like I'm cheating. Like this feels like I'm not supposed to do this, because we've all been raised on a certain amount of hard work and put in the time, and you got to do this and you got to get this done yourself, that kind of stuff. But then there's this next element is like, well, wait a second, if it's doing all this, what's my purpose? What am I doing? And so I think people, as they start to use agents, they feel a couple of these things. And I think some of the fun things is that people who look for kind of hacks, they look for they're the ones who go, how do I hack the system, or how do I just get this done? Like, I don't need it to be about me. And I see this a lot with some of the teens now. I didn't see the teens excited about the LLMs as they are as excited about the agents. And I think the difference in that is the LLMs were a whole world of where we were discussing things with them, having intelligent discussions and having to guide those discussions and interact and understand and interpret what they were saying. And I think a lot of the teens felt left out in that. And I only make note teens because they're the next, the 17, 18-year-olds over the next 3 to 5 to 10 years are the ones who are building the next sets of businesses. But now, without that necessarily a lot of that experience, or ability to guide that conversation, they can ask an agent to go build something for them. And they can just kind of go, oh, I have this vision, because they're very visionary. I see a lot of teens is switched on teens is like, very, hey, we could solve this problem. We could do this. What if I was able to do that? But they always felt kind of like later in life, you'll learn more, or you'll get more experience, and then you'll get there. And they always had this experience of you have to, just wait and wait and wait until they kind of lost momentum. But now they're going, hey, we can just build this now. Like I can just ask an agent to build this out and build this code. And their group is really starting to use this to build technology, build apps, build solutions. Whereas I see like a little bit of the older crowd is going like, I don't know I'm using this. Like, am I supposed to be getting the light? Like I was supposed to be doing that, right? So it's a very interesting emotional ride as well as we go through the use of agents.
And you just need to look at history. I mean, look at when calculators came along. The teachers trying to ban it because it's going to cause people to brains rot, and the same with computers. I think your role as we progress through this, and I really had to think about this today, like, what is my role here? And my role is to be inspired. Where are those great ideas coming from? Let me feed that into it, because I'm noticing, agents and all that, they can't, as I said, had a thought today, they can't hear tone. They can't hear intentionality. So we still have that role of being inspired, having that great idea. My 12-year-old, 11-year-old son is exactly the same now with all these vibe coding agents. And you can just see the mental process of just thinking of a great idea. So it just becomes another tool, and your leadership role is still secure. Be inspirational, lead your team, give a clear vision, and all these tools will help you on the road.
Yeah.
Wes, just curious, what's the most shocking thing that you see as you help deploy agents out there that is sometimes not said, the elephant in the room that you want to say to some people you're working with, but is not being said, that shocks you when you walk away?
How scaringly computer illiterate people are, just in terms of the fundamental skills. Have two screens, keep your computer up to date, how to install, how to solve problems, how to think, it's amazing now with all these things where you get stuck. It's like, well, you're stuck. Don't wait for me. Just ask the LLM to help you. It can do it, so that shock, the dependency of that and not being able to solve that. But the one that I think is probably the most inexcusable is just the time to just become computer literate and speed your life up.
What makes somebody, this is great, what makes somebody computer literate, would you say, when in today's time? Because the computer literate 5 years ago is different than now.
Yeah. It's the patience with yourself. And a lot of people kind of compliment me, they say I work with the silver surfers, people that are just not computer native, and just you're taking the time to do it, and just look.
I've never heard that term before.
Hey, I'm a silver surfer. I'm with you.
Yeah. and I love that audience, because they have so much value to give, and they're irritated because the younger generation is kind of I'm cross generational that saw computers come into the world, and so there's a lot of fear and misunderstanding, but it sometimes just feels like people are like writing with their opposite hand. Like if they're right-handed, they will, now they're stumbling, and it's like it's holding you back, versus just just figuring it out, and really it's just time. I think people reach that wall, and that becomes their thing. It's this technology, and I'm just it never works, and those small little things become the barrier to entry.
They don't get resourceful. Like they don't keep their computer up to speed. They don't actually get resourceful when they have a question. They call somebody else instead of actually going to the LM and becoming resourceful themselves.
Yeah. And I'll add a couple of things to that, Jeff, which is people need to start to create and understand the distinctions of AI. It's not just AI. AI is actually
the AI.
It's not just like AI. I mean, AI is a concept, sure, but there's very specific divisions and distinctions of AI that are very, very different. Using ChatGPT as a LLM is extremely different than using an agent. Having an agent that you're working with is very distinctly different than recursive learning agents and emergent behavior technology. It's like an open cloud. Like there are different levels and distinctions of these things, right? And so I think a lot of people historically have thought of the phone or the computer or technology as just like an updated invention of something they can use. Where we're getting with agents is to have them interwoven into who we are as a capable human being. And that's very different. Although, of course, these things will extend your capability. It was kind of like, hey, this is a communication device. I don't need to have my phone on me all the time. I can communicate. I don't need to be glued to the news. I don't need to know what's going on social all the time. No problem. But suddenly, if your capability as a human is extremely different than another capabilities another human, you do find there becomes a big gap. And so, what agents are becoming is an infrastructure to development and opportunity versus just a technology. I think a lot of, let's say, and when I say older, I'm just talking, let's say, let's just go past the 20s. Anybody who's 30 and up who kind of went through the educational system, went out to the world, had this social contract of you go to school, you learn a bunch of skills, then you go out in the world, you apply them, and you get paid for them. The current stat on how valuable skills are is that every 3 years they become obsolete now, which is crazy. And one of the things that I noticed, because we've been in AI technologies, we've been in technologies like we've been in innovation technology for 20 years. We've been in AI technologies since 2016 because they've been coming out with algorithms and machine learning and stuff on platforms for a long time. You got to understand. And now the current technology since 2022. And what I noticed is if you stop putting in the weekly learning on this thing, which is kind of like what we used to do, is okay, you learn a bunch of stuff, you sprint learn, and then you go use it, and you're like good for years. It doesn't work like that anymore. You have to constantly be sprint learning every week now.
Yep.
And so we're actually changing our entire infrastructure for how we're thinking, learning, engaging, doing things. And that's a really big change for people. It's not just a newer phone or a newer computer or a faster email system.
You know, Kane, I'm glad you brought that up. I actually saw that with crypto as well. Crypto would be if you're in crypto and then you wait a year, you're not that far behind, but you're kind of far behind. You wait 2 years, you're totally obsolete. And AI now is you wait a week and you're obsolete. If you don't stay up to speed. That's how fast things are moving. Crypto was moving much faster than the other one, and now this is moving even faster in the crypto space.
Yeah. So right now, as of today's date, AI intelligence is doubling every 10 weeks. And so, I'm sure it's quite a week. We don't want to scare everybody.
Yeah, but that's what it feels like.
But it does feel like that for sure. You miss a week of, and it's not just updates and all the hype. It's actually getting into, let's say, the core systems. I mean, and Wes, why don't we talk about this a little bit is where should people be putting their attention? Because there is a lot, and we say, don't pay attention to the hype, but where should they put their attention? Like,
where's the signal versus the noise?
Should they start to dive deep into a system? You suggest 2 or 3 systems. Like, I'm just curious as to, how you would look at that. I know what we tell people, but what would you say is like, how do you dive in deep with something constantly as a moving target?
Yeah, and then you feel like, am I committing to the right thing? And, this is what we talk about with the agentic operating system. What will never change is your process, the content, which we need to start talking about, in terms of context, that, who you are, what your business is about. That will never change. The AI will come and go and so on. So build it with in mind that you're going to be disruptive. I mean, we've been disrupted because what they call the hyperscalers, Anthropic, OpenAI, they can decide to make your SaaS solution, if you're building a software or something like that, to just create that and just basically incorporate it as a button in their thing, in their program. So build it with that in mind, and then you can never go wrong. And then you've got that foundation that you can use whatever you're doing. And then the tool really doesn't matter. I would just pick one, like picking the instrument. Pick one, knowing that if you're going to move along and you move from a string guitar to electric guitar, it's still the same thing. You can still jam. You can still make lovely music. So I think that first step is probably the biggest one, because once you're in, and also I would go on an information diet, because the more I hear, new AI can do this, the foundations don't change. And I love the question that you had, Jeff, around what are you most shocked with, is that I think people have forgotten, and especially, I spoke to people that aren't very computer literate, at the same time, people that are almost masterful coders, run successful business, is that just to remind them that, and that's what I'm shocked with, statement that I want to remind them that with technology, people underestimate the impact of technology. Let me just get this right. They overestimate the impact of technology in the short run. Am I getting this right way around?
Yeah, same thing as with planning in life. They'll overestimate the short, but underestimate
in the short run and underestimate in the long run. And that's what I'm seeing is like,
that makes a lot of sense. A tidal wave. It's like a tidal wave, a tsunami coming.
Yeah. And position yourself for 10 years. The fundamentals won't change. The speed will. And that's the thing, is gear everything for speed. So when you gear it for speed, your foundations. Okay, there's a new thing. Let's move. Doesn't matter. It's not going to kill us. you're going to have to reinvent yourself and your business. And that agility is what's going to really move things forward.
Yeah, cool. All right. I think it's a great place to wrap it up for today. Thank you, Wes. Appreciate you. And it was a nice deep dive into understanding what is happening and how to be looking at working with agents. Of course, there's a lot of tech stuff to be talking about agents, but today we want to just explore, where people are at and what do we need to be paying attention to. And I think the one takeaway today would be is dive in, start working with them, and pick a system and go deeper. Broad is not as valuable as deep now. We got thousands of tools coming out every week. Some are surviving, some are not, but they're all coming back to the same fundamentals. And in fact, most of them are using all the same brains and large language models and all the same stuff. Exactly. So instead of getting distracted into 100 different candy wrappers, just pick your one that you want to go deep into and start to get into the fundamentals of how to actually create value on it for yourself.
Yes.
So. Awesome.
Exactly Amen.
Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it. Good to see you guys. We'll see you in the next podcast, in the Infinite Mindset Podcast, helping you go through the revolution is live on Zoom now. It is going through it. We're taking you through it. So we'll see you guys in the next Infinite Mindset Podcast to keep going forward in how to be utilizing and leveraging AI technologies and innovation in your life. See you soon.
Cheers, guys. Thanks.